North Carolina, they continue their streak over Georgia Tech. I didn't tell you what kind of streak, a losing streak. 3 straight losses to divisional foe Georgia Tech. Oh, I'm wrong. There's no more divisions. My bad. Maybe the North Carolina Tar Heels thought they were going to get away from Georgia Tech this year with no divisions. No, says I, says the Rambling Wreck. UNC falls 46-42. Listen, dude, you presented three game potential upsets, and I think this is the one. I think this is the one that I chose. I don't remember.
It is. It
Okay,
is.
so this is the one that I chose. You presented Miami or Virginia at Miami, USC Cal, and UNC Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
I think the reason I wanted to go with this one is just because this is what Mac Brown is gonna do. He's going to get an elite quarterback under center, and he's gonna botch it somehow. I started to think back in his time at Texas. He did this at Texas. Colt McCoy, Texas Tech. They had no business losing that game in 2008.
Right.
No
I
business.
think that's correct.
I wish I had looked into this farther, but did he do this when he had Vince Young at the helm? I know that they won back-to-back Rose Bowls, so probably not. But Vince Young is college football. Vince Young, head and shoulders above the baby that Drake May and Colt McCoy would have.
Yeah.
This is what he's going to do. Unfortunately, this is what he's going to do. He drops another one to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, it's 100% what he's going to do. And it just makes no sense. I'm just going to look, their offense, North Carolina's offense was North Carolina's offense. What gets me is they give up 60 more yards than they were able to manage to this Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is climbing out of the worst hole that a program can be in. They are climbing out of they're still trying to convert from triple option to any form of a normal offense. They probably still have a surplus of tight ends and fullbacks and running backs all these years later after Paul Johnson's been gone. And you give up 635 yards to that team, 348 yards on the ground. I hate that I said earlier in the year, it looks like North Carolina's wrapping up some of those defensive issues that have held them back, that have cost them games. Man, the laser focuses right at Mac Brown at this point because what an absolute waste.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely a waste. And I'm going to take full responsibility for their fall. I believe it was the very next game that they played after I said North Carolina is a playoff team. So I'll take full responsibility for this. So if I tell you, bro, going into this weekend, or if I presented you with the 3 games that you presented me with, USC, Cal, Miami, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, but I tell you, I'm going to go ahead and give you stats for one of these games. I'm going to give you stats for the North Carolina game. Drake May is going to go 17 for 25, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's not going to throw a pick. Amari Hampton is going to have 29 attempts for $153 and 2 scores. Drake May is also going to rush for almost 60 on 10 carries and have a score himself. And there's going to be another running back who finds the end zone. Carolina is going to hit 42 points. I'm not picking that game for the upset.
Absolutely not.
Not doing it.
Absolutely not. And again, that's the whole reason. I mean, I watched the tail end of this game as North Carolina found their way to losing it. Didn't see all of it. Here's the other telling thing. I'm obviously bashing their defense is what I'm doing, but the way that they did it, they give up 24 points in the second quarter, which put that still left North Carolina up by 4 at half. Okay, they win the third quarter 7-0, and then they give up 22 in the fourth. Mm-hmm. This Georgia Tech team should bear. I mean, listen. We've talked about how weird they are, how they win on even weeks. They couldn't beat Bowling Green. They couldn't beat Boston College. And you managed to give up 46 points in half of the football game.
Can I tell you another little voodoo to Georgia Tech here? You mentioned that they've only won in even weeks. They only scored points in even quarters. They only scored in the second, and they only scored in the fourth. They scored, I believe, 22 in the second and 24 in the third. If that might be backwards, but I'm pretty sure that's close.
Yeah, it looks like it was
Nonetheless,
24.
nonetheless, no points in the first and third quarters.
I mean, that's so egregious. This should honestly be something that really Mac Brown may want to coach until he literally can't, function anymore. I mean, he's getting on up in years. He has done this for a long time. There are obviously redeeming qualities to him. He's an active coach that's won a title many, many moons ago. You've got to move out of North Carolina's way at this point. And look, they probably don't have the same roster without Mac Brown. But this roster is playoff worthy. That's the sad thing about it. That is the really sad thing about it. And you have flushed it down the drain. This schedule set up so perfectly for a playoff push. I mean, your toughest game was actually Appalachian State. If you want to look back prior to them losing a game, was Appalachian State taking them into overtime. But I mean, you lose to Virginia and Georgia Tech in back-to-back weeks. Two of the bottom feeders of your conference.
Not good. Well, Virginia's going to be better, and I think Georgia Tech is obviously on the rise. But coming out of the pit that you mentioned is, I think, the most impressive thing. Hey, I want to end this conversation with two numbers. Final score was 46-42. Your over-under was 65. Vegas was off. They got
obliterated in that one.
I don't think anybody was caught off guard there. Nonetheless, here's the second stat, and I'll end the segment with this. Georgia Tech gets the victory over North Carolina in front of all 35,900 fans in Atlanta, Bobby Dodd Stadium. The Ramblin' Wreck get the win.